everyone. This podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Will you let me know when you've started?
We are starting.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our podcast. Welcome to Mission Impodsible.
I guess.
Which I have gone rogue and named it that.
Dave has created his own rogue nation at the end of the table over there.
Why don't we introduce ourselves?
I'm Tom Ryman.
I'm David Bell, and who do we got here?
Hi, my name is Daniel O'Brien. I take full responsibility for, I believe, hijacking not even a specific show within your network, but just like your time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people maybe know this. We all, Tom, Dave, and I used to work at the same aquarium, and then the aquarium sort of shut down. They just got rid of all the fish, and a lot of us fish wranglers were left to our own devices somewhere else. And I really miss the fish, but I also really miss coming in every day and talking to you guys about movies that I saw. And now that I don't have this like central hub to go to anymore, I have nothing to do but force my way into podcasts. I saw the latest Mission Impossible movie and was like, I want to talk about this with other movie dorks, but I don't have access to them. So let's do a podcast about it.
You lost your aquarium. It's as if someone hastily broke your aquarium to make a quick getaway.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, the aquarium's still open. But who's going to go? All the fucking fish are gone, you know?
There's no fish in that aquarium. We were doing a live stream last week, and Dan shows up in the comments like, let's do this podcast.
Yeah, so here we are, and we're doing
rather than just talk about the newest Mission Impossible film, which is, what the hell's it called? Fallout. We're talking about all the Mission Impossible films.
Because you guys already talked about Fallout, yeah?
We did, but we can talk about it again.
We just watched,
Yeah. The audio was a little wonky, so hopefully this time around.
I'm also very excited. I got very excited about this because the Mission Impossible series is a series that has lasted for a very long time, made a lot of money, and no one really reflects upon it. Like, I'm convinced that everybody sees each movie once and never again, and they've just... And I enjoy every single one.
Yeah.
I have nothing against the series, and it's just weird that no one has ever, to my knowledge, sat down and just talked about them.
I didn't realize until preparing for this podcast how much I love this franchise.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen every movie multiple times except Rogue Nation and Fallout I've only seen once. And with the exception of one that I'm sure we'll get to, they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
And
right?
I've really enjoyed myself every time. And like, it's strange because even when the trailers come out for a new Mission Impossible, I'm like, they're making another one, and then I see it opening night and I fucking love it. But it just doesn't like occupy the same part of my brain as like Marvel franchise or even like the Oceans franchise.
Right.
It's this.
Yeah.
It's been around for 22 years. Is that how long they've been making these?
96 was the first one. So it's the same way. Like when a new trailer comes out, I'm just like, oh, that'll be a movie that'll end up like I don't get hyped for it, and then I see the movie, I'm like, this is a pretty fucking good movie.
Yeah.
But then like, it's definitely true. The only one I've seen more than once was the first one, and it's just because my brother and I had the VHS, so we would just watch it.
I've seen the first one a lot because for me, that's also, I'm a fan of like Brian De Palma, and so I think of that as a Brian De Palma film as well, like more than I think of it as a Mission Impossible film, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he's all over that film. And that's actually one of my favorite things about this series in general is that whenever they almost always have a new director for each one. It's similar to the Alien series, and they let that director be that director for the most part and do what they want, under the condition that Tom Cruise does something fucking crazy in it.
Right. It seems like it's such a strange franchise because, and you guys know more about movies than I do, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it really feels like there's the Mission Impossible thing. There's 3 tiers to it. You need to do the Mission Impossible thing, which has within that tier a lot of other bullet points that are like cool technology, big stunts, double cross, masks. There's the director thing, because they bring in a new director every time, and they're like, we want you to put your stamp on it. This is also your movie. And there's the Tom Cruise thing, which is no matter what, Tom Cruise is going to have a wish list of things that, regardless of what the movie says or what happens in it, there'll be things that are like, I would like to learn how to fly a helicopter, so that is going in the movie. Like he has his list of things, and every Mission Impossible is a marriage of these three spheres of desires, I suppose.
Yeah, and since Tom Cruise is one of the producers on it, he can get away with it.
Yeah,
he gets to do whatever he wants, and I think we're going to get into this because we're going to go movie to movie. Yeah, that's how we're going to do this.
Yeah,
but
not?
Like basically each movie, it seems to be is made from, they start out with like Tom Cruise. It's like, okay, these are the 3 action sequences I want to do, and then they make the movie around them. so it's like, yeah.
There's a great story in the book, how to write movies for fun and profit, with fun crossed out, and it's just profit.
Oh yeah,
Robert Ben Garant and Thomas Lennon.
Yeah,
they wrote Herbie Fully Loaded. They wrote all the Night at the Museum movies. Yeah, the Reno 911 guys. They're great. There's a story where they were almost going to make a movie with Jackie Chan, and they met him at a restaurant, and he was wearing like an all yellow tracksuit, and he had 2 beautiful women with him, and they'd never met him before, and they were excited to talk to him and pitch to him, and he was like, there'll be 2 things that are going to happen. 1, try to take my coat off me. And Robert Ben Garant reaches to try to take his coat off, and Jackie Chan spins it into a move and like ties his arm up in the coat and like immobilizes Robert Ben Garant. And here's the other thing. Has to be a scene where Jackie does this, and he takes a toothpick and he throws it in the air and catches it in his mouth. And he was like, those are the 2 things. And then he leaves. That's how I assume the Mission Impossible movies happen. Is that Tom Cruise shows up covered in bee stings or whatever, and it's like, I trained myself to hold my breath for 3 minutes, so I've gotten the green light to make another Mission Impossible movie around that idea. Please fill in the blanks.
I thought it was going to be more bee involved.
Nope. No, that's unrelated. Right. Just what I imagine Tom Cruise as. He just sits in the weird bee farm that I assume he has, getting stung by bees and getting energy from it.
There was going to be an apiary sequence, but we took that out.
Should we just talk about the movies?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that is probably pretty close to.
Yeah, I think they definitely, like, as he learns skills, because like now he's on a motorcycle in every film. So I feel like at some point he learned how to be on a motorcycle, and now he puts that in as many things as possible.
I mean,
like,
it's Top Gun. I think he's always ridden a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I tried to rewatch as many of these as I could for the podcast, but there's only so much time. And I skipped Mission Impossible 1 because it was the one that I felt like I
remember
historically have seen the most, remember the most. Does he motorcycle in that movie?
No, actually.
No.
He also...
I'm wondering if he has the least control in the first Mission Impossible or not.
He produced the first one as well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think he still had the same amount of pull.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It's funny, and...
he seems so restrained.
Yeah. That's that still remains. Watching them all, I watched them all in prep for this.
Same. In order.
In order. That remains my favorite Mission Impossible movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because I like the director the most, and they nail the spy stuff the most. And it happens to be the most tense. For all the stunts they do in the later ones, the first one feels the most tense.
It is. Like, even... I guess we're talking about the first movie now. We're going right into it. First Mission Impossible.
There's close-up magic in it.
There is close-up magic in it.
So fucking much.
It's so good. The first one came out in May of 1996. The world was a very different place back when this film came out.
Yeah. It's crazy to watch movies in a time where, like, we didn't really have problems yet. I mean, like, people had problems. And
we were fine.
This is, like, my lens, because when this movie came out, I was a full-blown child. But pre 9/11, we had an economic surplus in the country. I believe we had a president that we still thought was cool.
Yeah,
and this was just like, what if we could make bombs out of gum?
What if bombs is gum?
Right.
Yeah.
Just a different time for movies and life.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Directed by Brian De Palma. And it is tense. Like, even rewatching it like I did for this podcast, having seen it, probably a dozen times or more, it was still like, and remembering every beat of it was still like, man, this is like a spy thriller. Like, this is good.
And one of the most effective things that it did that none of the other Mission Impossibles have done quite as well, and like a lot of other movies since then haven't done quite as well, is the establishment of the stakes right off the bat when they wipe out the team in the beginning. That is something that I'm sure film buffs will be like, he got that from this Kurosawa film, like some big famous movie that I didn't see because I'm an idiot. But that wiping out everybody, like the whole beginning of the movie is like, this is Ethan Hunt and this is his team.
Yeah.
Here's Emilio Estevez, who at the time was definitely a star. He wasn't
Right.
like,
Yeah.
He's heavily featured too.
and he's heavily featured, and like you don't, as a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, however old I was when I saw it, I was like, you don't kill the Mighty Ducks guy.
Yeah.
You don't
in the
impale
first
him in the
15
face.
minutes of the movie.
Right.
Like they did all this work to establish this team around him, and then and even John Voight, because that you think he's dead in that movie too. Like
Yeah.
here's this team, here's Ethan Hunt and his team, and then fucking everybody is dead. And that at the time for me was like, this is unheard of. This is
Right.
breaking the rules of how movies work.
Right.
I think
I don't know what to do.
I think it's still true. Like
Yeah.
I can't think of another example of that happening.
Right. He wasn't surrounded by red shirts.
No,
Right.
those were like he had Estevez, he had Kirsten Scott
Kirsten Scott
Thomas.
Thomas.
Like she's somebody that people know.
That entire sequence sets a tone that I wish the rest of the series
Me
went
too.
by.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that it's devastating, but it's also very noir looking. Like it's
Yeah.
foggy and
It's
dark.
sinister.
Yeah, exactly.
It
And
makes
it's
you
like
feel-
it's like a spy film. It's
Yeah.
it's
It makes you feel anxious.
Yeah. And it's also pre Ethan Hunt as unstoppable, unkillable. He was still human. He's still like scared and confused.
My
Yeah.
favorite part, one of my favorite details about this movie is that Ethan Hunt never fires a gun in the entire film
oh yeah.
because it's not that kind of movie.
No.
The bad guys
It's a
shoot
spy
at him.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's running and being like, they make a point of it in the second one, which we'll talk about when we get to the second one, that when the bad guy's talking about him in part 2, that like he favors misdirection and non-confrontational
Right.
situations. But this is really the only film that we see that in. Like in
Yeah.
every other movie, he's just shooting a million people and crashing cars into
Right.
things.
Yeah.
This movie definitely sets one specific tone, which is the general plot points that will be in all of the rest of them, which is you've been disavowed, or everybody has been disavowed. You're going to go to a criminal for help and like get, you're gonna try to get help from them. Someone, an agent or someone good, is going to turn out to be bad. Like those are themes throughout the
Yeah.
entire series that they kept. I just wish they kept the visual tone of
Right.
it.
Speaking of the plot, one of my favorite things about this franchise is that it breaks my brain in a way that no other movie does, and that I'm fine if I don't completely understand the nuts and bolts of the plot, which I
Yes.
almost exclusively never do. I feel like if I sat down and I had to write down an essay describing the plot, I probably could. But in general, even when I'm watching Fallout, I'm just like, words, 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 words. That's the guy we're looking for. Got it. Words, words, words. That's
Yeah.
the MacGuffin. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. I know like the 3 things that I need to know, and in between those 3 things, there's going to be a bunch of words, and I just have to sit and wait patiently for one of the cool set pieces that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think this movie is the densest. The
Yeah.
first one. This plot, much like the plot to The Phantom Menace, took me several watchings before I really understood what was happening.
Right. But I do think that the first one still is just as, you could say, good or bad as the newest one, in the sense that it is just a series of sequences that we're
Yeah.
getting to. Even though the sequences, I think, in the first one are a little more intense, less action driven at times.
That train sequence, holy shit.
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
how good it was.
And I wish they'd do.
I mean, the amount of tension that they rang out of, is Jean Reno going to kill that rat with his fucking head?
Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
good.
Gonna swallow that rat?
And I do miss that. I wish the new ones would have like simpler moments of tension. Shit,
I
forgot
will
what
ask,
it
just
was.
like on a skeletal level, Mission Impossible 1, the knock list is the thing that gives the identity of every spy in IMF, right? That reveals the true identity and
It's
the personal
right.
information of all the spies.
It stands for non-official something.
Which is
Okay.
once again another theme throughout, which is the MacGuffin, the thing they're going after, is usually a list
Right.
or a bomb. And
Right, but
it's really only those.
But
two
yeah,
things.
in this case, the thing that is at stake is if this list gets out or falls into the wrong hands, then every spy, who are the good guys, is compromised.
Right.
And in the
Right.
meantime, Ethan Hunt doesn't know who he can trust because everyone on his team is dead, but he still just knows, I need to get this list back. That's the
Right.
stakes. Am I correct in like the
Yeah.
loosest, most no bells and whistles
Sort of.
approximation? Okay.
They
Fix
steal.
it.
They steal a fake one.
Who's they?
He and his team. In the beginning, the mission where his whole team gets killed, they're supposed to go follow that guy Galitzin, who is supposedly stealing the knock list. But we later find out that he was actually an operative working for Henry Cerny.
It's a mole hunt.
It's a mole hunt. The whole thing was staged. They just didn't know that, like, obviously they didn't expect Galitzin to get stabbed to death by John Reno.
Right.
Right.
Did you notice that it didn't? I mean, this is a lot. This is a general theme throughout as well. Is nothing they did really made sense or mattered because they were just trying to get that guy to walk out of that party with that disc.
They were trying to catch him.
Right.
They were supposed to trap him in the elevator and then grab him.
Oh, is that what they
Yeah.
were going to do? Okay, so that went wrong.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they get. I guess this still is the same because they always have a plan and it's never the thing.
And their plans never fucking
in the
work.
In the end, yeah, they're terrible.
They have to call audibles constantly.
Yeah. But in the end, all they had to do is like wait outside the party for him, not go in and take the identity of that senator guy, whoever the
Right.
like. None of that was necessary.
And the double cross in this movie was John Voight,
Yeah.
who we thought died in the beginning, and he was the Ethan Hunt mentor figure. And there's two sort of double crosses that I feel like are hallmarks of the franchise. One is the guy you thought was good is bad, and two is the guy you thought was bad is good.
Is good, yeah.
Or
Right.
like chasing you. And in this one, I don't know the actor or character's name, but it's the guy who...
Henry Cerny. He's the guy
Henry
who's on
Czerny.
Sharp Objects now.
Oh, okay.
His name's Kittredge in the film.
Kittredge. Fuck,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they
He's the
kinda-
guy that is chasing Ethan Hunt, and then by the end they work together and it's fine.
Yeah, he's Alec Baldwin in Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait till we talk about that.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed about this first movie, and again, it's that thing of De Palma sets a specific tone, but the other thing that this movie immediately establishes is how batshit the premise is always going to be, which is the moment John Voight's in an airplane and a flight attendant hands him a secret spy cassette tape.
A Secret Spy Betamax.
Yeah, Betamax that has his mission. And immediately my question was, so she's just a flight attendant who 10% of her job is handing out this secret spy mission.
I'm certain she's a government agent.
I
that
think
they-
she's a government
they-
agent.
but
too.
all right,
I think it's the same thing as-
is she working as a flight attendant?
No,
that
I think
whole
they
flight?
probably replaced her like they would replace anybody else that was
So
supposed to
she
be secret.
snuck on the plane.
No, I disagree. I think she's a flight attendant who is a government agent. And
Really?
there's a chance. Like I felt the same way when I watched Rogue Nation,
With the
where there's a
record store.
librarian or like a record store.
Yeah,
record
that
store,
was
yeah.
the other one where it was
because
like,
he comes in and she's like, "We're closed." He's like, "I'm looking for something," and that's like the code word. And then she's like, they get into their whole
Yeah.
code dance. But like, look at her body language when he walks in. She's ready to close. She's trying to close
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
shop.
she's thinking about the rest of her evening.
she's just
She
there.
knows how to close a library or record store.
record
yeah,
store.
she's just there fucking making recommendations and stuff like that. Right away, it's an insane universe for that reason that
Yeah.
there's just people whose jobs are like, and by the way, every now and then someone's going to come in and say these words to you, and you have to give them this specific thing. Also, you have to know how to shoot a gun. Like
Right.
it's the most bizarre qualifications for a job.
Right. I mean, I think what they want us to believe is that the IMF is so elite that everyone on staff, it's a football team where everyone on staff is the star football player from their high school. And it's so good that like your high school quarterback is just calling plays from the bench.
Right.
Like, this is the 10th best spy in the world is so good, but she's still the 10th best spy, so she works in the record store.
Right, she's
Right.
under deep cover
And
at
so
the record store
it
owner
really
in
makes
Prague.
sense why whenever they show like a congressman going over IMF, they're like, what the hell is this? Because they're probably like, why don't you just email them their mission? Like or write it on a piece of paper and mail it to like whatever, or just bring them into your office and tell them you don't have to do this shit. It's a very inefficient.
Mission Impossible 1 has a lot of iconic moments. It's got train sequence. It's got obviously the I fall and almost hit the floor.
Yeah, the White
And
Room.
I spread myself out in the White Room, bead of sweat, most tense thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's got masks, which is
Masks
such an
all over the
iconic
place.
part of this franchise.
Yeah, it's great.
The red light, green light gum never really took off after that. Don't
like-
know why they didn't use it again.
I know. I like that they set it up
Well, okay.
and then use it and then use it again.
Here's why I think is because it's only used to break glass, which could also be done with many things. Like I
But
guess
this time, like, sure, a hammer could break glass, but you wouldn't accidentally chew on a hammer and die. That's the beauty of this one.
this movie has John Voight wearing goggles climbing on a train.
Sure
and
does.
That never
They're
isn't
blowing.
hilarious.
They're in a 140-mile-hour wind tunnel to film that sequence.
Of course they were.
So there's some serious wind blowing on those two guys.
That's the final thing about this series in general, and I think there are action movies that forget this. That this is like an actual action franchise, and what I mean by that is they take stunt people and they have them do stunts. The movie that always keeps coming to mind is like I guess the new Sherlock movies and the new Kingsman movies. There's this weird type of action where they like replace stuntmen with like a CGI thing, and I don't understand why they think that's a good idea, because the entire point of a stunt movie is to show a real person doing a stunt, and these movies are kind of, I want to say, or like versus the Marvel films, like these are stunt movies. These are the last big stunt movies that I can think of right now.
I think it's.
I guess John Wick.
There's
like
there's some like The Raid and.
Yeah, but these are like this is like the biggest stunt franchise, action franchise.
I think it's the same as there's a difference between like people who are fans of kung fu movies and how they feel about kung fu movies and then like stuff that uses wires.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Crouching Tiger.
But even wires
And Jet
requires
Li's movies.
some sort of skill, right? And like,
Right, but you're still doing
Wire
stuff that
stunts
can't
is-
actually happen.
Right.
So it still lends itself to like really cartoony action as
Yes.
opposed to like something like The Raid where it's like, no, those dudes aren't using wires. They're just kicking the shit out of each other.
right. But I guess what the weird line, the thing that's been really bugging me is, I haven't seen the Kingsman sequel, but I remember in the trailer, there's a part where, what's his name? Is it bad?
Very
It's very bad.
Where Channing Tatum like uses a whip, and you can see the whip is CGI, and it's like, well, just get a guy who knows how to use a whip, right? There's nothing impressive about a CGI whip. Like that's not fantasy. You're replacing like a very doable stunt with CGI, and that just bugs the hell out of me. But I guess.
Well, it sounds like they're going to make Mission Impossible movies forever. So you,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You'll
yeah,
always
yeah.
have
That's
your stunts.
and that's why I'm saying this is so good. Is that this is like one of the few big budget stunt movies that still exists.
And I like that the action set pieces in the movie are still focused on being like tense.
Right.
Like obviously the White Room sequence is
Yeah.
nothing but like escalation upon escalation of he's making too much noise because the pulley breaks and it's grinding against the thing. He's sweating, it's going to drop on the floor. The fucking rat. You're like, what's he going to do about that rat?
And it's
His reaction confuses me. Like I can't tell if he's afraid of rats or if he knows that like if he's like freaking out because the rat's going to make too much noise or possibly drop through the thing.
And
into
like,
the
what is
room.
your opinion on how he killed that rat?
I think he just pounded it right on the
pounded
head
it
with
because
his
he
whip.
lets go of the rope.
My whole time I thought he headbutts the brain out of that rat, and that's why the rat is dead. And someone later in my life was like, "Oh, I always assumed we didn't see it, but he like bit the rat in its throat and killed the rat that
Wait,
way."
someone said that.
Someone
to
said
you?
that to me, not someone like connected with the movie at all.
Right,
Someone
but
was
that's
like, "Oh
just a
yeah, when John
weird
Reno
assumption.
bit that rat." I was like, "Fucking what?"
Yeah, he took a chunk out of that rat. I don't know. Because he lets go of the rope, so I assume he hits it, and then later when
Oh, you assumed he hit it with his hand.
yes.
I for my whole life assumed headbutt.
I mean, I like the
Well,
idea.
you don't need to
but
let go of the. Yeah.
He could have headbutted it without letting go of the rope. And then
I
of
think
course
that or
when
picked it up and slammed it or something. He
could
did
have
something
stabbed it.
violent. Yeah,
because he does when he
he did
when
something that required a hand. It's very. It's weird that.
because he does he greets Tom Cruise climbing back up into the vent, knife out.
Yes. He's just terrible.
I
love
the
character.
actor so much.
Oh yeah.
I love that actor, and this character is delightful to me.
I relate so much to him not knowing to quit when he's ahead. Like, it's insane. He's flying the helicopter at the end. It's revealed that he's definitely a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
And Tom Cruise is trying to lead his helicopter into this tunnel. He could have cut the rope and just flown away. You're a helicopter. Trains don't have a lot of options for places they can go.
Right.
You can predict where it's going to be on the other side of that tunnel. Instead, he flew his helicopter inside a tunnel improbably, and it worked. It was like, all right, just ride this out.
Yeah,
John,
ride
now.
this
Just
out.
like, be
Or-
cool about this.
or
Like,
land.
No, I'm going to be petty and like try to use the helicopter
Yeah,
to cut
try to chop
Ethan
him.
Hunt's head off.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately his undoing. It's like, yeah, I've flown too close to the sun too.
I mean, it would have been. Imagine the story he could have told if he pulled that off successfully.
To whom?
I don't know. To his weird traitor
told
spy
John
buddies.
Voight.
Yeah.
John
If
Voight's.
they succeed, he got in the helicopter. He'd be like, did you see what I did back there?
You saw what I did. You saw I almost chopped his head off. It was great. It was the best.
Yes, we are such clean clandestine spies.
Yeah. This is something that is in that sequence, and you saying that they shot in a wind tunnel that's why. And you had a note about this, and I did as well, which is that, and this is throughout when Tom Cruise is doing a stunt like this, his face is hilarious and ridiculous throughout. Yeah, his face looks like a
pulls-
man hanging onto a train.
Yeah, he pulls the greatest faces in
Yeah.
these movies. But yeah, when he climbs out on top of that train, man, it's
Yeah.
just so good.
As if in
see
Rogue
what's-
Nation, when he's on the plane, you can see he's clearly smiling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which how could you
doing it.
not? Yeah.
It's like I'm hanging on the outside of a plane.
This is why we made the movie, everybody.
I'm getting paid.
I got 6,000 people employed because I learned how to do this.
Yeah. What?
You guys have anything else to say about Mission Impossible 1?
I'm trying to think.
I know that
There's other major beats that I wanna cover.
I know that one of the reasons John Voight is in this is because of his connection to the original Mission Impossible franchise, the
Yeah.
TV show. Do either of you know anything about the show?
No.
I know that Jim Phelps was the main character,
It's like a passing of the torch idea.
but John Voight did not play him. And
Oh, he wasn't involved at all?
not that I know of. I could be wrong, but I know they asked the original cast to be back, and that was how that opening scene was conceived, is that the team was going to be the original Mission Impossible cast, and they were all going to get killed.
Which is fucking dark and bold. I mean,
Yeah.
John Voight does play the original. He's playing the original character,
Right.
And they make him a bad
Make
guy,
him turn
who
evil
gets
and get killed.
crushed by a helicopter.
The most hilarious way.
Yeah.
He's smushed by a flaming helicopter.
Yeah,
I had it in my head this whole time that he was in the original show.
No, he wasn't. They
That's
did
fine.
ask all the original people, but they didn't
remember-
want to do it.
I remember Martin Landau being at the premiere of the movie and getting in a fight with some like 19-year-old blonde fucking VJ who was interviewing him because she didn't know who he was or that he was connected to the original franchise, and he just really scolded her, and she was just like doing her best.
Way to let this child have it, Martin Landau.
what a great beginning to a career.
Yeah. Remember that time I got yelled at by Martin Landau in 1996? That's like,
This was my first gig. They made me pay for my flight, and then this old guy just screams at me.
the other thing I wanted to point out that I have always hated about this movie is we're supposed to believe that Claire is married to John Voight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
she
kinda
is like
creepy.
30 years old.
Yeah.
And he is 60.
And John Voight.
And John Voight.
Yeah.
He's got that scary, mean face that, like, I feel like at 12 years old, when I saw John Voight was like, Ethan, we're going to do spy work together. I'm like, that's the bad guy. That's
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Look
the
at
bad
that
guy.
mean rock monster. He's the
Where-
bad guy.
His
Where
face
was
looks like a
this-
Halloween mask.
Where was this in relation to Anaconda?
This is the
years
same
ago?
year.
Same year.
What
Oh,
Yeah.
no, wait. This is a year before. I think Anaconda's 97.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, he's in his Anaconda years.
This is where John Voight came back.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen John Voight in a while.
John Voight had come back and been like, I'm exclusively playing creepy villains from now on.
Right.
And we're like, yeah, we know.
We're like, yeah.
What was your other shot?
Yeah. No, we all accept this. This is a role you slide into easily.
He was in Tomb Raider.
That was after this.
Yeah. Okay.
He's in the National Treasure movies, and they're trying to convince me that he's
yeah.
not evil in it. But even then, it's just like, any minute now.
Wait for him to bury a dagger in Nicolas Cage's back. Right up to the hilt. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about this movie.
I'm prepared to move on.
Yeah?
Yeah. To Mission Impossible
Mission
2,
Impossible
the John
2.
Woo film. Which, again, very much a John Woo film.
This is a terrible movie.
It's so bad.
It's
It's a John Woo film.
So
it's a
bad.
bad John Woo film.
It is, yeah.
Like I enjoy most of John Woo's films. This is a bad movie.
It's a bad anyone's film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a victim of late 90s cool.
It feels like it could be it could have been a James Bond film. It could have been a generic action film. There's nothing about it that stands out.
It's got not the immediate opening, because the immediate opening is the plane crime, where the plane crashes.
Crime, yes.
But then we cut to very hot but like inexplicably long-haired Tom Cruise free climbing with a bizarre soundtrack choice playing underneath it. He climbs up this mountain. He almost falls off the mountain, but then climbs up the mountain anyway. Gets to the top of the mountain. Is very happy. Out of nowhere, even though you're in like the fucking canyon where you could see for miles anything around you, somehow out of nowhere a helicopter appears. Two guys, black suits, sunglasses, pull out a bazooka, fire a missile into the mountain. He opens the missile. It's a pair of sunglasses. He puts on the fucking sunglasses. The sunglasses give him his mission. He throws the sunglasses off the side of the cliff and they explode. And it is like the most toxically cool thing.
Right.
It's
Right.
so cripplingly cool and stupid.
How did
As
he
the
know?
Limp Bizkit version of the Mission Impossible theme
Yeah.
starts playing, that
How did he know that was a good missile versus a bad
maybe he
missile?
recognized those dudes. It's like, oh, that's Chad.
Yeah, it just seems like
that's Frank and Jeff. I know those guys. They're gonna shoot a
think-
pair of sunglasses at me.
I mean, at that point, it could either be a good missile or you just are prepared to die. Like if I'm
True.
Tom Cruise and I'm a secret agent and a guy shows up with a helicopter when I'm unarmed at the top of a mountain, I would just be like, well, you got me.
I mean,
Beaten by the best.
I've gone on hikes, and if someone at the end of the hike shot a missile, I'd just be like, okay, sure, like just
This is
kill
easier
me.
than climbing down.
Yeah,
That's another thing that bugs me about that is he's got nothing on him.
No.
Not even so much as like a camel pack.
His hands are chalked, but there's no like pack that has the climber's chalk. He
I
doesn't have a
think
fanny
we see.
pack
I
of that.
think we see him reach into
Do
a
we?
pocket and do it. I think so.
maybe he had another guy come in
that's
with
it.
a
We'll be
missile
there
with
tonight.
water in it.
Flawless. But yeah, he's out there by himself,
Yeah,
which is you're not supposed to do.
no, but
Like,
it
there's fucking nobody around him.
but it looks awesome.
127 hours hadn't come out yet, so
That's true. Yeah.
And we should note that this is, of course, an actual Tom Cruise stunt.
Yeah.
Most of it. He has a climbing double for some of the shots, and then the jump from one ledge to the other overhang is a stunt double.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were like,
I know John
no,
Woo.
Tom
I know
Cruise.
John Woo was like against it in general. I was watching the making of, and he was talking how nervous he was watching it. Like he couldn't watch the monitors, and he was just like, "There's a few stunts where John Woo was like, he insisted on doing it. I didn't want him to do it, and I hated it."
Yeah. I mean, Tom and I were talking about this a little bit last night over text. We both share this theory that Tom Cruise dreams of dying on set of Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah,
I firmly believe he wants to die on film.
I mean,
Yeah, like Ben Folds when he toured would sort of like half jokingly tell stories about wanting to die on stage, like this Bob Dylan Never Ending Tour thing. Ben Folds was thinking the same thing, where it was like romanticizing the idea of this artist playing all the time, and then just one day, like 98 years old or whatever, just collapses on stage, and was like, isn't there poetry in that? That's how I definitely feel about Tom Cruise, because he's doing all these stunts.
Right.
You can't make a Mission Impossible movie unless he gets to do some crazy stunt that will definitely put his life in danger.
right. He has to risk his aging skeleton in some
Right.
way.
We all have to just know that, like, which is such a rude and thoughtless position to put other people in. That,
Yeah.
like that John Woo has to be like, hey, someone might die on our watch today, and that's gonna change all of our lives.
Right.
We might not
Yeah.
be able to face making movies anymore.
Not
It's
even-
really important to Tom Cruise that he might die.
I was about to say, it's not someone might die. It's like,
Right.
listen,
It's
everybody.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise might die today.
Tom Cruise insists on possibly dying.
All 200 of us are going to be forced to watch it happen.
Right, and we might never be the same after that.
What if it ends up just being a sandwich, craft services sandwich?
I think that's more of the reason. Yeah, he just chokes to death on
Yeah,
like
he
a
gets his
fucking
wish.
Mendocino farm sandwich.
Yeah.
It's for this movie and the one before it, the first one. It wasn't It wasn't like a conscious choice to be like we should have different directors for each film to make a completely different film.
Yeah.
These two guys specifically never wanted to do it again.
Right.
Like Brian De Palma was like, nope,
Yeah, I super believe that.
Yeah.
and John Woo was like, nope.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They did not get along with.
Oh yeah, and I
Tom
mean,
Cruise.
it should be noted that what's his name, McQuarrie.
Yeah.
Like they brought him on for a second one. I don't think that was ever an idea of like, oh yeah, let's get a different director and have them do their thing. It just happened to do that way, and when they had a new director, they would let them do what they wanted to do.
Right, and
mean,
then.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you have J.J. Abrams who does part 3, but then he stays on as a producer.
Yeah.
I think because you brought up Macquarie, my favorite thing about that is that he and Cruise were working on Edge of Tomorrow together, and Tom Cruise, in like his creepy Tom Cruise way, was like, "Would you like to do the next Mission Impossible?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not really sure. Let me think about it. Let me talk about it. Let me get the story in place. Like, I'm really flattered, but let me think about that." And then Tom Cruise went away for a little while, like went to a different room and came back. Was like, "I spoke to the producer. You're doing the next mission," and that's just it.
It should be noted McQuarrie did write 3, didn't he? He co-wrote it. He was brought on for rewrites or
I
something.
think so. Yeah.
So he wasn't completely unfamiliar. That's like the
credited-
same
But
with the
it's
Jeremy
definitely
Renner
not
story.
It's definitely not a consensual.
No.
No,
filmmaking
he does.
decision.
He does the same thing to Renner. Apparently. But like,
Well, I took us here. We'll get to it though.
Yeah.
But we're on terrible Mission Impossible 2.
this movie is so fucking bad.
It's very bad. It's so slow.
I still want to talk about this opening scene. It's the only. It's the only because they all start with the thing. Here's your mission. Should you choose to accept it, and then
Yeah.
this mission will this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. This is the only message that self-destructs that could have killed him
Right.
Yes,
because his
this is-
sunglasses explode.
Everything about that, it really sets the tone because it's like these
Yeah.
cool Oakleys that
Yeah.
are like, yeah, we're in the 90s.
and he throws them away and
And
they
then they
blow up. It's like,
explode
what if
in
you were
this-
a little slow on the
Yeah.
draw, buddy? It just blows up on your fucking head.
Or
Right, or what if
malfunctions.
You know, like the sunglasses, that's obviously new technology.
Yeah.
These weird robot sunglasses that I'm spending a second like, wait, let me see. Is there a. How do I pause? Pause. I'm saying out loud, pause. Rewind. There's a lot of information, and then your fucking
Your head
top of your head
explodes.
blows up.
The guys in the helicopter are like, oh shit.
They just go like,
Quietly fly away.
They land and they push him off the mountain. It was like, he fell climbing. What are you
He
going to
fell.
do? When you get a chance
Yeah,
to
yeah.
fire the sunglasses at
when
him.
we saw him fall, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. That's God. He would have heard that helicopter for like 30 minutes before it actually got to him. There's nothing out there but canyons and,
Yeah.
and mountains for that fucking
Yeah.
helicopter to echo off of. Like he would have heard them when they took off. Like, oh, there's going to be a helicopter here in about an hour.
So he gets his mission. I swore to myself that I was going to try to do this for every movie, like I did with the first one. It's just like boil it down. Like there's the Noctis, and we're trying to get it. This is one that I saw last night, and it's still kind of fuzzy. Doug Ray Scott has access to a chemical weapon that he wants to unleash. I saw this 12 hours ago. I do not remember if he was trying to get money out of this.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's buying stock in the company. That
What he's doing is in the very beginning, the Russian scientist, I cannot pronounce his name. He plays Boris the Blade from Snatch.
he
great.
sure does.
He's great. He has
He was in The
developed.
Saint.
He wasn't the Saint. He's developed. He accidentally developed a virus while he was trying to come up with a cure for every form of the flu. So he accidentally invented a super flu at the same time. Dougray Scott has stolen the cure, not realizing that the virus was actually inside Boris the Blade and he was killed in the plane crash. So the cure is worthless unless the virus exists. So he's trying to release the virus so that he can make money off the cure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw this movie yesterday.
Yeah, it's real fucking...
And Tandy Newton has a history with, I'm going to just use your pronunciation even though I don't know if it's right, Dougray?
I do agree is how I've been saying. I have
I'm
no
saying
idea.
Doug Ray, because I'm
Doug Ray?
from New Jersey.
Sure. He's Scottish. I don't know if that helps. Doesn't help my
That does
pronunciation.
add a layer to it. That
Yeah.
means it's probably not Doug Ray.
Right, Tom Cruise thinks he's recruiting her for her thief skills.
but she has a past with DeGray.
Yeah.
And she does. There is no ambiguity. She is always on Team Cruise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
they immediately like sleep together.
Yeah. Back when Mission Impossible thought they were going to do a Bond thing, and there was a different
Right.
like hot girl for him to have a relationship
And
with
it's like
every
it's a
movie.
30-minute sequence of
Yeah.
like slow motion car spinning, and
Yeah.
they spend so much time to do like the romance between him and Thandie Newton, and it's the first 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah,
Nothing has happened.
They thought we'd really care about that romance.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
give a shit.
Nope.
Like that is it's to start your 2-hour action-packed Mission Impossible sequel with 30 minutes of just insane uses of slow
Right.
motion, building this romance between these two characters that we
Right.
don't
And
really.
again, before they realized that like Ethan Hunt flirts, but he's like an asexual
he is. Yeah,
spy machine.
yeah.
That's what he should be.
Well,
I think that's like
he
the
gets
depressing.
married.
The depressing lesson of this series of movies is that he cannot be in a meaningful
Yes,
relationship.
it's
with
a
anyone.
real bummer because like I wrote that down. Like skipping ahead a little, the third one is True Lies, and
Yeah.
and it's this idea, and it ends in a way where it's like, see, he can have a family and stuff, and then the fourth one's immediately like, no, you cannot.
Yeah.
and it's
Oh, it was such a bummer too until the reveal at the end of Ghost Protocol where you
Yeah.
think she got fucking chopped up and
Yeah,
thrown in the
exactly.
river. I'm like, oh my god.
and that's basically the story of the rest. Like now there's like female characters, but they seem good to not
Yeah.
put a romance
Which is,
subplot
like,
in there.
A fun thing about Ghost Protocol with Paula Patton.
Paula Patton.
I guess, where he's just like, maybe we kiss now. She's like, no, and the
Yeah.
whole movie's like, yeah, no, we don't need that.
one of the things I love about that and the later ones, although they get close to putting a romance into Fallout,
Yeah.
but like I appreciate their having a female character on the team that's not a love interest for anybody.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like just let her be part of the
Yeah.
team.
I'm also, I mean, this is the whole team. For these first 3 and maybe 4 films, they can't decide on who his team is.
I know.
We know we've got Luther. We've got Ving Rhames as Luther.
Yes.
Luther's hanging in there.
It's like they're
MI2
perpetually
also
auditioning.
Had, Proto Benji, this guy whose name again escapes me. I'm gonna call
Billy.
him
He's
Bootsy.
Australian.
Sure.
Isn't he the guy from like that Woody Allen film,
Maybe. I don't know who.
Sounds like
Match
garbage.
Point?
I don't know who this actor is.
I don't know either, and I know.
Oh,
that
maybe
he
that's the
doesn't-
next one.
He doesn't die in this movie, and also doesn't show up in.
No,
MI3.
we never see him again.
We never see him again. He's exactly Proto Benji.
Yeah.
It's like funny, accented, squirrely guy who you don't really believe as an agent, but like he's a fun part of the team. Just
Yeah.
good comic relief. He's a pretty lighthearted fella. He's good on the team when you need him. And then I guess by MI3 they're like, I don't know, this Simon Pegg's doing pretty well.
Let's put
Yeah.
Simon Pegg in here.
Let's put a real guy in this part.
It's funny.
Steve Zahn was going to play that character.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was
That
going to
would
play
have been
Billy.
great.
Yeah.
He would have stuck around for the rest of the movies.
Yeah, I think probably.
I'm having a lot of trouble remembering this movie, the second
Well-
one. I keep wanting to skip ahead because
No, we have to talk about
Yeah.
how fucking stupid this movie
It's
is.
so stupid. There's
is a-
I should have made a list of things that are stupid. The one that definitely held up in my memory is a stupid thing. So I didn't remember a lot of this movie. When I was texting Tom last night, I stopped short of being like, when is Tommy Lee Jones going to show up? Because I thought Tommy Lee Jones was the bad guy in this movie.
I
And
wish
he's just
he
that
not.
would have been
He is
such a
just
better
not.
movie. Oh my god!
He's just
I don't know.
completely not in this movie.
Did I confuse it with Under Siege? I guess I don't know
Maybe,
what my
yeah.
problem was, but I was like, "Where's Tommy Lee Jones? Who is? Someone's got to give this movie some gravitas."
What
but no,
movie
no
is-
one ever does.
I'm trying to think what movie that could be. Like, is he in Blown Away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's the bad guy in Blown Away.
But a thing that my memory was right about that was definitely bad was Tom Cruise kicks a gun out of the sand
Yeah.
There,
into the air and uses it to kill the bad guy at the end. Like that's one of the only things that I definitely remembered when I think about MI2 was the opening and him kicking this kicking
Yeah.
down on the earth with such velocity and strength that a gun flies into his hand. and he
straight
catches-
up,
Yeah.
just vertically straight up.
That's such
That-
a
there's
that's a John Woo thing. It feels like.
That's a John Woo thing, and there's another moment earlier in the film where he does a similar thing, and I can't remember the sequence now. But it's a situation in which a bad guy, has him dead to fucking rights. There's no reason Dougray. I think we're going to settle on Dougray. It sounds a little more.
We can call him
esteemed.
Doogie.
Doogie. There's no fucking reason because they have Dougray is holding a gun at him for like 15 seconds.
Right.
He's like,
Right.
You're done, Ethan. You should have killed me. Ha ha. He just like keeps like laughing. It's
Here
like,
I go
no.
shooting you.
Yeah, like that guy would have shot him 15 times
Yeah.
in
Right.
those 15 seconds. And then Tom Cruise still has the time to throw something at Luther, kick the sand, have the gun shoot up in his hand, drop and turn dramatically to shoot Dougray dead. It's like, no, he would have got lit up.
Yeah.
Like there's no like I understand that looks cool, but it's like such
It only looks cool in slow motion.
right. It's such a late 90s, early 2000s cool thing, and it's
Yeah.
just so fucking dumb.
There's
There's
another
no reason that would have worked.
very 90s 2000s cool thing is when there's a scene where Tandy Newton, I'm not going to absorb your pronunciation of her name. I'm confident in my
I'm pretty sure
pronunciation
that's
of
it. Yeah.
She is destroying the virus, and she does it by like using these medical fucking pistols. Like there's the
Right.
virus vial, and then she takes this metal surgical gun and shoots it into nothingness. I'm like, there's no way that's how that technology works. Like doctors, we're pretty good on syringes. That's how we do with our
What
things.
is-
This is like
okay.
she picks up a series of pistols and shoots the virus.
Those
into
are
nothingness.
things.
Okay,
Those
I was
are
about
things.
to ask because that shows up. Well,
Yeah.
that shows up in multiple movies. That thing that you press against, go
Put it into
and
the neck,
goes in.
and it does everything.
Yeah.
That's what
I
they use that in the military. When they have to give inoculations to a lot, what it does is it shoots it at high speed, so it just penetrates your skin. It's so they don't have to keep changing needles, and they can inoculate a bunch of people in a row. Like, those are a real thing.
But
I
she
don't
has-
know.
She has multiple guns in there. She's like picks up a gun, destroys. Picks up a gun.
That's Tom
destroys.
Cruise. He
Oh,
picks
he
up.
does that.
He does it. He picks up 2 guns, and the last gun, Dougray's guys break in, and he drops it, and they fight over it for a minute, and then she picks it up and injects the virus into herself,
Right.
so that like you can't shoot
Right.
me if you want to keep
Right.
the virus.
I'm the thing that is valuable.
Right. But those guns are real. I'm not sure just shooting the virus into nothing wouldn't just infect everyone in the room.
Sure.
Because it's supposed to be the flu, right? And
Right.
the flu is airborne.
Who can say?
So who can say?
I'm okay with those little things just because the whole series has it's
Yeah,
all
those
ridiculous.
are real.
Yeah.
Those are a real thing.
Okay. Well, that's good to
This-
know.
this-
I guess the movie does hold up.
This movie
It
does have
is
2.
ironclad.
It has 2 moments that I like. One is. And exactly 2. One is when he
Precisely
puts his face on the henchman and has the guy fucking torture and fucking murder him.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, Ethan Hunt, that is dark.
All
like,
that guy had
shit.
to do was open his fake Tom Cruise mouth, and then Dougray would have seen nothing but tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's still kind of a dumb scene.
that's a prime example of this movie, and I want to get to your second thing that you.
Oh,
liked
the
as
second
well.
thing, real quick, is just my favorite Mission Impossible stunt, and just because of how I don't know, maybe this is just something that gets to me. It's the knife in the eye, which is an actual stunt when the bad guy is trying to drive the knife into Tom Cruise's eye, and it's like a half an inch away. They did that with a cable tied to the knife, and they had Tom Cruise just not move, and they actually put that knife that close to his eye. Like if he had like twitched or sneezed, like
Yeah.
it's another one in the making of. John Woo is like, I really didn't like filming that. Like,
He makes
made me
a-
very nervous. I didn't want to blind my lead actor.
He'll kill him. He
But I
makes
just
a-
thought that's a really cool moment in an action film.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that it
especially
was done for real.
with a real knife. And
Yeah,
then
no
for the-
reason for it to have to be done
and
for
for
real.
the shot where you can see Dougray pressing on it, that's still the real knife, and
Oh, yeah.
Cruise as the producer is like really try to push that knife into me, so he's inflicting his will on other
Oh, yeah.
people now. It's like I might kill Tom
Again, there's
Cruise.
still that cable, but like if that cable failed, yeah, the actor
Or
would be
if he
like,
just rips
"Oh, I
it
have
off
to
the-
live with that now." Yeah,
yeah,
or if
like
he-
I've stabbed Tom Cruise through the skull.
This is one of the things that makes me different from you, and because you like the stunt aspect of these things, and I think a lot of people do. They like the stunt things, but when I hear stories about that, I feel the same way as when I hear stories about Quentin Tarantino strangling someone in Inglourious Bastards to really make it look like she's strangling. Like I remember seeing the movie and being like, "Man, that looks real," and then I read the story. Oh yeah, it's because he was strangling her.
Right.
Oh, you didn't need to do that. Like.
You really
I
didn't
think
need to do
there's-
that.
It looked real. So did the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And I know they weren't. And if someone did make dinosaurs and they did kill people, I would be unhappy. So, like, I'm just as fine if you fool me. It's totally okay to fool me with magic.
Like I don't like that stuff because it's
I think there's
somebody inflicting it on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it's just Tom Cruise being like, I'm gonna strap myself to the outside of this airplane. I'm gonna be like, sure. So
Yeah,
there's popcorn.
I think
That's
there's
the
a
thing is,
line
like,
because
that knife really was that close to my eye. If I sneezed, I would have been dead. Then I'm sitting here being like, I didn't go to this movie because I
yeah.
thought it would be better if you were close to death.
Yeah, that's
I just like spy
I
stuff,
think
man.
people like that stuff because it shows a level of passion for the craft, and there's definitely like a blurry line between when it's like someone undergoing abuse and someone who's passionate. I think about I think about like the making of Evil Dead, where they just were awful to Bruce Campbell, but they were also awful to the other actors, and those other actors never acted again because they were just like, oh, this is terrible, I'm not doing this.
yeah.
Like this, it's tough to know. I think it's based it's person to person. Like,
Well, the knife thing seems particularly egregious just because I can't tell that's a real knife.
I
didn't think it was.
I
Well,
assume it
think
was
if they
rubber
did-
because it's a fucking centimeter from his goddamn eye.
right. Oh, I always assumed it was an effects shot that was just like really good.
I just thought it was a rubber knife.
But I think it's probably, yeah, I guess I'm sure. No, they probably couldn't dull it or anything because it's very close.
I just wonder, like, is your experience of the movie made worse if someone said afterwards, it was a rubber knife? Or like, yeah,
No.
I'm the guy who animated that knife in CGI. It looked real, right? Like, it's still, I never leave a movie being like, before I determine how I feel about this, I want to know if Thanos is real. I want to know if they really shot that guy.
I think
and if they say it was movie magic, then I'm going to give it a C instead of an A.
I think it depends on the effect because, like in Ghost Protocol, when he's on that building, if that was all green screen, I feel like that it would have been missing something.
It would have been boring. It'd have been
yeah.
like Skyscraper.
Yeah. Skyscraper's a good example. We watched Skyscraper, and that's all like you can feel that it's just there's no stakes. It's all on a green screen, and so I think, for example, in this series, Mission Impossible 3, where he makes that ridiculous jump on the bridge, and like there's a lot of CGI.
bridge
There's some
sequence is pretty
practical
good.
stumps
Yeah.
in there too, but there's like. I always feel like a disjointed feeling where it's like floaty, where
Yeah.
it's not quite reality. So like, I think it's if you can safely do something practically in a movie, I think that's the best way to do it.
That's my thought exactly too, because I think I do like practical, but not if it's ever going to be dangerous. Like,
Right.
the real danger threat does not enhance a movie, and actually usually annoys me and makes me mad as someone who's worked on sets before and
Yeah.
has taken great precaution to make sure that nobody gets hurt.
Especially
Yeah.
when, like, the thing for me is animals. If I see a CGI animal, I'm like, good for them.
Yeah.
It might not look perfect, but you know what? Let's not drag an animal into our make
Don't
believe.
make a fucking
They don't know
tiger
why
do
we're
that.
doing this.
He doesn't
Yeah.
want to be there.
Dave, you mentioned one of your favorite things was the mask thing. I think Mission Impossible 2 went really mask crazy.
Yes.
They went
Everybody
balls
had a
out with
mask.
these masks.
Everyone loved the masks in the first one. I was like, this is so what a cool thing. What a
Right,
fun hallmark
yeah,
of
yeah.
the show. And they just went non-fucking stop with their masks. And in a way that, like, to achieve the thing that you're talking about where Tom Cruise and the Duke of Monmouth from Moulin Rouge, who plays Hugh.
Yeah, Hugh.
Hugh is the
Yeah.
like the right-hand man of Ducre. They're fighting. We don't know exactly what happens to them. The next time we see them, Hugh shows up with Tom Cruise tied up and presents him to Dougray Scott. And Hugh's like, I got him, I beat him up. And Tom Cruise is going, like, yeah, I wired his jaw shut. I hit him so bad that he can't
Yeah.
move his mouth. And then Dougray Scott shoots Tom Cruise and kills him dead. And then we realize, nope, that was actually the henchman in a Tom Cruise mask, and his mouth was taped up. And really, Hugh is Tom Cruise in a henchman mask. To achieve that, Tom Cruise needed to show up with a Tom Cruise and a Hugh mask.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some tape. He needed to come to the fight with those two masks
I'm
on
a-
his person.
I'm imagining he like opens his coat and he's got everybody. Just
Yeah.
like
He's got
masks.
a-
You
Also,
never
the
know.
little strip that lets you do
The
the
voice
Duke
thing.
Yeah,
voice,
yeah,
the voice
yeah.
strip. There's that sequence where where Dougray cuts the tip of Hugh's finger off. Baffling.
With a cigar chomper.
Yeah, why does he do that?
I forget.
To show that he's evil.
Yeah, because also you can't do that. Those
Dish.
if you've ever used,
Oh yeah, they're dull.
well, they're not. It's not just that they're dull. Like the blade is so flim and
Right.
flimsy and thin, it's like that's not going to cut through a bone.
Right.
I mean, it'll certainly cut the shit out of your finger, but it's not going to cut it off.
I wish there were more villains in movies that you show as supportive bosses.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way they would successfully, like, a Bond villain would successfully have, like, a volcano base, is if he was like, hey, everybody's doing a great job, you get health care.
Yeah, here's your
get-
401k.
Right. No
and-
supervillain entity or enterprise could survive if the main bad guy is unhinged and just like keeps killing his underlings. And they'd be
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm not
That
gonna-"
scene is especially baffling because what happens in it is Hugh tells him, he's like, look, I think it's suspicious that Tandy Newton has shown up all of a sudden right after we pull this big heist. Like, aren't you suspicious? And Dougray agrees with him and then cuts his finger off.
He's like, good job.
He's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I've already thought of that. Of course, it's suspicious, but why? I'll keep her around until I figure out for certain. I mean, she can't figure out too much, and then I'll kill her if she's.
And in
if
the
she's bad.
meantime, fuck you.
Yeah. let me cut your finger off because he has one. They close up on his hand. He's got one gross ass long fingernail, and he's
Yes.
like, "That's a pretty mangy nail," and he cuts his finger off for it. That scene is baffling. I read that this movie also jumps around a lot, to the point where it gets a little confused. Like, from what I read, the original cut of this movie was over 3 hours long. And Paramount told John Woo, absolutely not.
Can you imagine that?
I
sitting through
can.
that?
After
shit.
sitting through the first 30 minutes of this movie, I can imagine the 3 hour cut
I like
of this film.
I like the idea that all he had to do was bring it down was take a bunch of his slow mo shots and just make them regular
Right,
speed.
just do normal speed.
Yeah.
This is a 90-minute movie.
Yeah. But like after they come up with the scheme to put Tandy Newton in jail so that Dougray will break her out, they yada 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 over a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're in Seville and he tells her what the plan is. We're going to drop you in prison and I'm going to put it out so he can't help but notice that you're in jail and he's going to bust you out. And then the very next thing that happens is she's getting off a boat to walk up to Dougray's house, and then we see Luther and Billy in a helicopter landing in this hut in the middle of the desert. And then it takes like a minute for me to be like, oh, we're back in Australia.
Yeah.
Why are we back in Australia? Oh, because the scene opens with like kangaroos jumping through the desert. Like, what the fuck? I thought we were in Seville.
Yeah, we just like see her taking her mugshot photos and then jump cut to she's on a boat now.
She's on
you
a
know
boat.
How, like hey, you've been bailed out. There's a boat waiting for you over there. It's gonna take you somewhere nice.
It's like, why are we back in Australia? Also, why is Dougray based in Australia? When they hijack the plane in the beginning, they crash the plane into the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
They parachute over the continental United States.
Sorry, this hadn't occurred to me, but this
The
is
geography of this movie is
bonkers.
insane.
Yeah.
Like,
Holy shit.
It's such a testament to these movies that I don't notice that while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, none of this matters. It's fine. Wherever.
it is very,
Yeah, it
very
really
confusing.
it never it's funny cuz I never hold these films up to the same standards as other films with this stuff.
I was mad at this movie. So
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, it's
was
all the
noticing.
same silliness. So it was just like, I don't know. It was just boring. That's
Well,
its
the other
biggest problem.
movies aren't like the other movies. For me, it always in the moment as I'm following the film, I always know where we are and
Right.
why we're there. Like in this one, we're in Spain. And suddenly we're back in Australia, and
Yeah.
Ethan has a hut set up. Like Luther is like, we don't see him call Luther. It's like all of a sudden Luther's in a helicopter with some guy we've never met, and then he lands and he gets off. It's like, welcome to Australia. It's this shack I've already set up. Like, when the fuck did you
Some
do
guy
all
we've
this?
never met and will never meet again.
Yeah,
I think we should probably move on to MI3, but it just occurs to me that no one had mentioned the fact that Anthony Hopkins is in this movie.
Right.
super is.
Well, this is when
He
they
is in-
begin.
He's in until the very end of the film. He's in one goddamn scene.
Yeah.
and he's in the end like, don't tell me where you're going on vacation. Then it wouldn't be a vacation.
This is
the head of IMF. He's the mentor role, I guess. Or
guess.
Or just like the boss. Just like,
He's the boss.
Ethan Hunt, you need to do this. Here's this other mission. It's me, Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Can you believe they got me for this?
Right.
I mean, you'll believe it eventually. Like, strap in. I'm going to be in Transformers in the future. But for now, what a huge get this must be.
What particularly makes me laugh about that is in the very next movie we get a throwaway line from Simon Pegg that explains why he's working for an American intelligence agency. Like he just happens to mention I could lose my citizenship
Right, yeah.
for this. So it's like, okay, that's why a British guy is at the IMF. Sir Anthony makes no attempt to disguise his accent. He's just like, I'm fucking Anthony Hopkins. It's like, how does an elderly Welsh man become the secretary of the IMF? Like it's like even in part 4, Tom Wilkinson does a voice.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, I'm gonna do my crime boss voice because me being British makes no sense.
This begins a tradition that Ethan constantly has a different boss.
Yeah.
And the IMF, that's a bad sign for the IMF. That's just one more reason the IMF is terrible. Because apparently there's a high turnover of his boss.
Right.
Nobody wants that job.
So Mission Impossible 3, a great one. I remember, I believe the trailer came out during the Super Bowl. And it was one of those things, because there was a lot of space between, this is what, 2006?
Yeah.
There's a considerable amount of space between Mission Impossible 2 and this one. Enough that, like,
the
internet wasn't as big there, so I wasn't even really like, tracking movies necessarily.
This was sort of a reboot, almost.
It was like, they're making another Mission Impossible?
It was like a
Second
surprise.
One was so bad.
Yeah.
And then this trailer came out and just fucking banged, and I was so excited.
I wasn't into this movie the first time I saw it. I remember at the time being really irritated by the romance subplot because I couldn't set. This is the year after Tom Cruise went insane over Katie Holmes and was just like crowing from the rooftops. So like watching this movie, I couldn't separate it from that. Where I was like, oh, he obviously wanted Katie Holmes to play this role, and they were like, no, that like
Michelle Monaghan looks enough like Katie Holmes in that like. White, brunette, waifish American girl type. And so much of the beginning of this movie is Tom Cruise being like aggressively intense, normal guy in love with her. And like it's a thing we never saw from Ethan. He wasn't a love guy, and now he's just like, I just love my fucking wife so fucking much.
It works.
And I needed to play this part.
Yeah.
It works really well because, again, the character arc is like, the first two films, he's like, how old is Tom Cruise making those? Like 30s?
Well, he's like
He's in his
57 now.
Yeah, he was in his 30s when the first one came out.
So yeah, it's just like, okay, he's in 30, he hasn't settled down like that character.
Yeah.
And now this is him like trying to actually grow up and settle down. So I like that. I like that he was doing True Lies.
Oh, I like it now. Like watching it, I meant to say this at the top of the podcast. The first movie was the only one that I had seen multiple times. I had only seen each of these films one time each when they came out. And going back and rewatching Mission Impossible 3, I really liked it. I was like, this is pretty good.
Well,
There's one incredibly bad part in the movie, and we'll get to it, but it's otherwise really, really strong.
And I didn't. The relationship stuff didn't bother me. Like I really like that opening scene where he's talking about like being like a traffic coordinator.
I also think like when he is very like huge smile on his face and very intensely talking to his house guest about like street stability, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like really boring and really unsettling. Every time I watch them, it's like that's the real Tom Cruise. That's
Tom Cruise.
him. This is what he's like.
Although, but the joke that comes out of that, where he walks away and the guy's like snores.
Yeah, the two women are like, I'd marry him.
Like what he was saying about like try, it's like somebody hits the brakes, you can trace the effect of it for miles. I was like legitimately like interested in that. I was like, I want to read about that.
Yeah.
So it's like what he was talking about I thought was interesting.
They're collecting data that way too?
I'm like, shit.
This movie, I think, has the only... I'm going to say the only... Wait. Yeah, I think I am. The only villain I like, that I find interesting. Like, it doesn't have... The rest doesn't have terrible villains, but this is the...
I find Lane compelling, but...
I like Lane. I also fucking loved Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah, Henry Cavill. Fucking, I love Henry Cavill for different reasons. This is the most menacing villain. It's just like, Philip Seymour Hoffman being a fucking sociopath.
He's so terrifying and he's so effective.
The opening scene where it's the countdown scene is so fucking good.
Yeah.
That what a way to start your movie with that sequence. Like, oh shit. And he just like does this Philip Seymour Hoffman thing where he's like barely interested in what's happening.
He makes it such adult movie. Like
Yeah,
it's
he
very,
really
it's
does.
very, it's really good to get him to do this for the first Mission Impossible. That is like, even though the second one came out in 2000, it's still a 90s movie, and this is very much we are making Mission Impossible movies for post 9/11 world.
Yeah.
And we're making action movies for adults where there are stakes that matter. And Phil Hoffman as a performer and also the character that he played is just like, that's a perfect way to let people know that the franchise is different now.
Yeah. He's, man, that opening scene is so fucking good.
Yeah, it
It's
really
just
is.
chilling. Also, I know that we should have at that point expected twists from everyone. The Billy Crudup one still got me. That was still a reveal that because
they're making
me because they really he's really sticking his neck out for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, they make you like him, and they're making it seem like it's Larry Fish.
Yeah.
That's the bad guy.
It's also having seen like
Fishburne.
having seen like Jeremy Renner and the later ones and stuff, you kind of think like, oh, they're at an era where they're trying to have like kind of like other guys, leading guys helping out along the way. So yeah, it makes it's a harder to see twist.
It's especially it comes right after we think that his sweet wife was killed. We think his sweet wife died right in front of him.
Right.
And then Billy Crudup comes in and is like, it's complicated. And I'm like, that's a great reveal.
Yeah.
I'm on board for this.
Yeah, it's pretty, and the way he explains what he's doing even kind of makes sense because a lot of the movies are guilty of, particularly the later ones, are guilty of bad guys who are just fanatics. So they do illogical things because they believe in chaos and imbalance and everything. Billy Crudup's explanation for what he's doing sounds like a standard like CIA black bag operation.
Right.
It's like we're doing this to destabilize a government so we can go in and set up democracy. I'm like, that is a fucking thing that America has done. Like I believe that a high level government person would be doing that on like not legally, but like on orders from like the president.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, sorry.
I was gonna say the MacGuffin in this is almost feels like it's spoofing the films that weren't made yet.
Yeah.
Because the idea of like what is the rabbit's foot? It's like who cares?
They never tell us what it is.
It doesn't matter.
I love that they never tell us what the rabbit's foot is.
who the fuck cares?
It doesn't matter.
And that's I feel like the later ones are more guilty of this. Is that they got more and more lazy about what the villain wants and where it's just like generic plot to blow everything up because from the ashes humanity will rise, and it's like sure.
I think that's very understandable. I think if you're dealing with like Marvel movies or James Bond franchise or the Mission Impossible franchise, you really do run out of wants that a villain could have. It's money, it's chaos, it's power, it's destruction. And I think if you try to get any more developed or nuanced than that, you'll end up with a villain that is too sympathetic, probably.
Yeah.
So you still need to have like some amount of evil at their core, like it's still or greed or whatever it is. Because if your thing is like, I'm trying to steal this bomb because I'm from Senegal and no one's paying attention to us and we need a whole lot of help, and so I'm going to just like hurt America to bring attention, then I'd be like, you make a good point. And you can't have that in your Mission Impossible movie.
I think maybe they should try because it makes for a more compelling villain.
Yeah.
Like the more personal you make the villain's goal or motivation.
Like, I don't think they want to do that.
Probably not.
I don't think they can with Mission Impossible because that's not part of the joy of these movies. Is I don't have to care what we're chasing. I don't have to care what the villain's motivation is. I just know that he's the villain, and I want Ethan Hunt to win.
Right.
And
I want him to burn half his face and then hit him in the face
someone
with
who
a fucking
loves to
hook.
go to movies to think, don't make me do that in a Mission Impossible movie.
That
Please.
said, I think what's missing that's in the first one is that spy feeling of like the first one there's no like there's some motivation for the villain, but it's mostly like who is the villain?
Yeah.
Like since then they pretty much revealed the villain. Like there's always like just someone briefing Ethan Hunt of like, here's the bad guy, here's what he wants. It'd be nice to see one where it's
trying to figure out who the villain is.
Yeah,
again?
where it's more of a mystery again.
Well, they try to do it in Fallout, but they reveal very early.
I thought they revealed in the fucking trailer.
Well, we'll talk about this more when we get to Fallout. From the trailer, I assumed Henry Cavill was going to be another Renner character. They're going to be sort of adversarial and then work together. Nope.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. What else about 3? Oh, my least favorite thing about it, when they're breaking into the fucking Vatican City, he gets on top of a wall and then turns direct to camera and says, "Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall."
Yeah.
Kind of took me out of the movie, if I'm being totally honest.
A little bit.
I'm sure he's like...
It was a weird line to say.
I'm sure he's saying that into a microphone as a spy code word.
Yeah, to let him know that he's up there.
They're also saying that to wink at me in the audience, and
I'm like,
don't do that.
Something about that.
Fuck you.
There was also the part where their truck breaks down and they go into like hardcore Italian.
Yeah, they're just cursing at each other in Italian.
Yeah, there was just something cartoony about that whole sequence.
I liked it though, the way it played out. Like I liked the spy things that they do in this movie.
Yes.
Like the mission where they have to try to rescue Carrie Russell. And goddamn, when that charge goes off in her head, that's brutal.
Oh,
she
yeah.
gets brain death and and her fucking
Yeah,
face.
it was so
Holy
good.
crap.
Fucking brutal.
Man.
I will say this movie has the least amount of like grandiose stunts in it.
Yeah.
And that's fine because it's still quite enjoyable.
It
Yeah,
does have the still most iconic Tom Cruise runs really fast for a very long time scene.
Right.
Him running in
On the bridge?
no, at the end.
At the end in like Shanghai or
Shanghai?
whatever.
Yeah,
Him
yes.
running through Shanghai where it's really just like you're going fucking fast and you're running for a very long time. And I believe in my heart that you did that, Tom.
It made me nervous because he was like jumping over little gaps and it was like, Tom, watch out, man.
He does. I think it's in this one. It's in one. I'm pretty sure it's in this one where he does like a standing jump over a fucking car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're short, and you're getting older, man. How are you clearing cars?
They did one stunt they did do that's actually it's not like it's a pretty they drove a tanker truck over him.
Yeah.
Which seems like a hell of a stunt.
That's in this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's
But it doesn't. It's
parachutes
not
out
like
of
a
the-
big
yeah.
deal. Yeah, when he's doing all that chase scene, he's hanging out of the car. Like that's actually him. And then they just had it on a track or whatever, and they just had him lie there and drove the tanker over him.
I really wonder what that movie experience is like when he talks to, because he doesn't usually get this on a Mission Impossible set, but he's got Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's got an actual actor on set with him, and he's like, yes, and then I'm going to actually parachute, and I'm going to hide under this car when it drives over me. And Phil is just like, I'm going to memorize my lines, and then when it looks like something is going to be dangerous, I'm going to leave.
Yeah,
and then
I'll
a
happily
stunt person
tag in my stunt man when you're going to do that part. I do
That's
like.
so fucking tight that you do that.
It's really cool.
Over my trailer.
So like
You're getting dangerously close to Buffalo Bill.
his voice is very close.
I know.
I love in the scene. He's just so fucking good in this when they get him and he's like, tell me where the rabbit's foot. He's just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? He's just like, what's your name? Like he's just
so
not
good.
not listening
I
at
forget
all.
The exact line, but it's they're trying to intimidate him, and he's like, "Don't threaten me, just
Yeah, when he picks up the
Don't.
phone, he's like, I swear to God, if yours, don't threaten me, just don't.
just don't."
Yeah.
Like it's such a great his delivery and the line is like, I don't think a bad guy's ever said that like that.
Yeah,
It's
it's so
like-
fucking good.
It's
Don't,
what makes
don't
him.
be childish.
Yeah.
please.
He's so intimidating because he seems like exhausted by
right.
it.
He's like he's
just
so
like, I don't care.
He's
man.
so checked out of
yeah.
it. And just the whole interrogation scene where he's just like, tell me about the rabbit's foot. It's like, what's your name? Who are you? You got a girlfriend, a wife, or somebody? And he just is on his own wavelength. He kicks him out of the airplane. He just kind of like doesn't react really.
Just look. You got a girlfriend? What are you? 165, $170? What do you weigh? That's not a lot.
And then
I've heard more.
yeah. Oh man, it's so good.
He really makes the film for me.
He does, and I love that he gets
I think.
to.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I love that he actually gets to participate in the spy thing because Ethan's disguised as Philly Seymour
Yeah.
for a while. So
That
it's just like Philip
sequence-
Seymour Hoffman like climbing through and like being a secret agent.
That was a
That
fun
scene
little
was
sequence.
also very cool when like
Yeah.
we're watching the mask get put on, and it's just a filmmaking flex.
Right.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoyed it.
It's effective. And it
They
looks
have a
cool.
couple. Oh, this might be in the later ones. I don't remember when. There's one they did where they're looking at a mirror, and it's a cool one where he puts on the mask and you see like behind him, and then the reflection is the actual actor.
Yeah.
and they're doing that by just not having a mirror. Like I like it when they have fun with how
Yeah.
to do the masks.
They,
Yeah.
they find new ways to make it cool.
Yeah.
After Mission Impossible 2 ruined masks.
This is definitely I think the best mask movie.
Yeah.
In later ones they don't even do much masks, which is fine. We don't need the masks, but
No.
this was the best mask sequence.
They'll
I
have to
think.
have at least one mask in every movie, otherwise
Yeah.
there will be a
Well,
riot.
in
that I will
Ghost
lead.
Protocol, in Ghost Protocol, they don't have. They have a little bit like the villain
It
has a
breaks.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh right, the villain wears a mask.
Apart
Yeah.
from the score in this movie, nothing else about it makes me feel like a J.J. Abrams movie. I know it's Giacomo, who is his frequent musical collaborator, and it's my favorite score of any of the Mission Impossible movies. But otherwise, like it doesn't feel like J.J. Abrams to me. When I watch it, it doesn't even live in my memory as a J.J. Abrams movie.
This is.
There's some J.J. Abrams.
Is this his first? This is one of his first.
I believe
movies.
so.
This is his film directorial
And
debut.
yeah, and he's been up until this point, he was a producer and a writer for a lot of things.
Right.
So I almost feel like this is J.J. Abrams being like, "Look, I can direct,"
Yeah.
and like he didn't want to do anything too bold because you're right, it doesn't feel like a J.J. Abrams film.
There's a lot of
There's
handheld stuff.
Yeah,
There's not a mystery box aspect to it. I don't.
There are
recall.
lens flares.
There's lens flares. Yeah.
this. No, I was gonna say this begins a decline, not a decline, but when the directing looks more generic. But that's not true because Brad Bird does the next one,
Yeah.
and it
And it's
looks like
very
a Brad Bird
Bird,
movie. Yeah.
Are we ready for Brad Bird one?
I think we're ready for Brad
Okay.
Bird. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah,
I wanna say
I,
about this
that's the
one.
thing about this movie is that if Philip Seymour Hoffman wasn't the villain, I think it'd be like Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care about it at all.
This does kickstart the soft reboot of the Mission Impossible franchise, which is a weird thing to say because it's still Tom Cruise
Right.
playing the same character, and Ving Rhames is still a touchstone as the only other person who's been in all 3 movies at this point.
Right.
But this is taking the shape of the movies that we come to know as Mission Impossible movies now.
Hey, thanks for watching part 1, everybody.
Thanks for listening to it.
Thanks for God damn it,
It's-
Dave.
Watching works. Whatever.
The fuck, man. All
Thanks
right.
for staring intently at your device while you listen to part 1 of this podcast.
Yeah, this ended up being like really long, so we're actually splitting it into 2 parts. So you can listen to part 2 in, I don't know, maybe a week from
Soon,
now,
yeah.
whenever we decide to release it.
Whenever the fuck we put it out, that's when
Yeah.
you'll get it. And
All right.
no sooner.
Thanks for listening.
There you go. You nailed it.